Welcome.
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 Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Gruppetto.
There's been off-the-bike drama this week in cycling, and later on Matti Breschel will be along to give us his first-hand account. On it, however, we've had brilliant racing. The Women's World Tour was in the desert for the 4-day UAE Tour. Opening days here are often characterised by long straights, flats, sand, skyscrapers and sprints. And this was no different. Lorena Wiebes winning the bunch kick to start things off for SD Works Pro Time. If that had been a slow burner, we then had our first taste of glorious crosswind chaos.
We have got crosswinds coming from the left-hand side of the road here. Very strong winds out there today in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. And straight away, the damage is being done here.
Wiebes won the stage and kept the jersey, but crucially, Elisa Longo Borghini was supported by teammates in the front group to take time on her GC rivals on a day when they wouldn't have imagined losing any. The common wisdom was that 2 from 2 would not become a hat-trick for Wiebes, with a mountaintop finish at Jebel Hafit the setting for a general classification fight. And there were no surprises. The sprinter was dropped, then Longo Borghini made her move further up the mountain to go on to grab both stage win and leader's jersey. The Italian champ delighting her new paymasters, winning at home for her brand new UAE ADQ team, breaking her own in-competition climbing record from a couple of years previous. Things were going fairly well. And that's how they continue for her. The final stage, a formality. Another flat day, another fast finish, and you know who was fastest.
The European champion stays clear. Fantastic victory. 96th victory for Lorena Wiebes and stage 4 of the UAE Women's Tour.
Longo Borghini, a stage race winner again, and we'll chat to her later in the episode. One more takeaway from the race was that Dutchwoman Wiebes, still only 25, now has an astonishing 100 victories in sight. That's 96 now, and counting. In Valencia, they were already celebrating a century. Former Vuelta champion and Tour stage winner Bernardo Ruiz turned 100 last month. And the Spanish cycling great was present to see Lidl Trek win a team time trial in his native Orihuela. It was the American squad's first win in the discipline for over a decade, and it put Matthias Vacek in the leader's jersey. Day 2 at the Volta a Comunitat Valenciana saw Vacek hold on wonderfully after an attacking race to Al Puente. Ineos Grenadiers, searching for their first victory in over 200 days, launched the first attack through Tobias Foss. The Norwegian's brave effort saw him caught, however, and Bahrain Victorious looked to have it with Pello Bilbao before teammate Santiago Buitrago was even stronger. The Colombian took the stage win, but Vacek hung on to yellow by just 2 seconds. Now overnight came the news that Ineos had taken that win, and an emotional one it was too. Egan Bernal, TT champion in his native Colombia, 1,347 days since his last success. Given everything that he'd been through since a shocking training crash in 2022, it was a big moment for the 2019 Tour winner. Cycling's good news story of the week got even better a few days later too, with Bernal doubling up to take the road race title. Back in Spain, Vacek battled on through another attacking race, which ended with a fantastic first for 21-year-old Spaniard Ivan Romeo. The World Under-23 time trial champion made his move with 17 kilometres to go and held on to take his maiden bit of senior success. Despite Vacek's fight, the race lead was grabbed by Joao Almeida. Those celebrations wouldn't last long though. Where on earth though is the GC leader? Because this is the Volta a la Comunitat Valenciana going to Santiago Buitrago. 150 metres to the line. He's going to take the stage win. He will take the 10 bonus seconds. He will take the yellow jersey. Santiago Buitrago winning for the second time in a week and grabbing the lead and most probably the overall win at the Volta a la Comunitat Valenciana. Second at Milan, third for Söderqvist, but where was Joao Almeida? The last stage of the race saw riders pass through many of the areas devastated by the shocking Dana storms at the beginning of last November. It was a tribute to the resilience of the Valencian region and its people. At the end of it, there was no change in the GC, and when it came to the expected sprint, Lidl Trek produced a perfect lead-out without competition. A penalty kick, if you like. The main man smashed it home, and Milan hadn't won so easily since the days of Maldini. Jonathan Milan's first win of the season, with Buitrago's first ever general classification win confirmed. There was also early season stage racing in France, with 5 days that produced a range of emotions that will take a while to digest, understand and act on. More of that later. All seemed well at the Etoile de Bességes when Soudal-QuickStep's Paul Magny won on the opening day. A crash near the end of day 2 was worrying, with safety and particularly the presence of traffic on the race route stealing the headlines away from Uno X's stage winner Soudal-Warrenschall. Poor weather, but yet again principally more cars on the route on day 3 forced a peloton stop. Then conversations with organisers, and after that several big name teams decided that it was unsafe for them to continue. EF Education EasyPost were one of those squads. In a moment we'll clear up what happened and find out why with their director Matti Breschel. Arnaud Delis won the end of that stage before the bunch continued to be reduced on day 4. Just 64 riders finished the day and another entire team withdrew. Now, French teams had mainly stood behind the organisers and had continued to race. So it was an all-home podium, Kevin Vauquelin riding away to victory. The Tour de France stage winner was also the fastest against the clock on the very last day, and the GC winner of a drama that will be talked about for a long time to come, and that may have consequences for the sport and its organisation going forward.
So a before and after moment, perhaps. For that, we'll have to wait and see. But to begin to understand exactly what happened, I caught up with a man who was on the scene as his and 8 other squads withdrew on day 3. So Matti Breschel, a busy week for you guys, but not in the way you wanted. How did the situation unfold the other day, and what exactly happened to get everyone to the point where you had no choice but to withdraw?
I think we all saw the pictures of what happened on second stage, with moving vehicles on the road, riders crashing and everything. And obviously the riders were a bit concerned. So they addressed the problems to the organizer and UCI the morning before stage 3. They want to guarantee that the roads were safe. Otherwise, they would stop the race. And riders all voted and agreed that that was the best thing they could do. They were kind of met with a bit of arrogance from the police and UCI as well. So, I mean, we started the race. Everybody wanted to race. There was a race, but then after, I think, 10 kilometers, there was, again, cars on the road. And then they stopped, which we all knew they wanted to. So, yeah, that was kind of what happened. And then we were standing there for 45 minutes. And it was a bit of a farce almost, where I felt riders were left a little bit in the dark. Organizers trying to almost blackmail some of the minor French teams. And we saw a peloton all of a sudden were completely split in half. And what happened was that organizer, they canceled the stage, where some teams went back to the bus, including us, EF. And all of a sudden UCI went and said, and this was the chief commissaire, said, by the way, there is a race, so everybody who wants to keep riding can do so. So yeah, I think everyone was left with a bit of an empty feeling.
It does seem strange because the UCI keep telling us that they're doing these things for safety and trying to improve safety. And then you hear that they're supposed to be in charge, but then they're making different decisions. Shouldn't there be a clearer chain of decisions? Shouldn't they be the ones that, like a referee in another sport, to say, hang on a minute, it's either safe or it isn't?
I mean, a good example was the day before where we, including other teams, tried to extend the 3K rule to 5K. And this was 1 hour before the start, but they said it was too late. Okay. And this was the chief commissaire. He apparently has to go through Switzerland before he can take any decisions. So whether that's that specific commissaire or if that's the general rule, I'm not sure. But I mean, you saw a lot of changes over the years from UCI, and sometimes I feel as a DS that these rules are not really well thought through. Feeding points, now it's kind of back to the old system where you have 20 different sonniers cramped up on a tiny little hill, and it's absolutely chaos. We've seen more crashes now this year. Also, they try to take away radios, so we can't communicate with our riders. This was last year doing Poland was one of the races where, again, we saw more crashes than normal.
The interesting thing now I find, having seen what happened as well last week in Mallorca too, for all the talk of sort of riders' union and things like that, teams acting together, there's a bit of an age-old process that's surfacing again. Thankfully, we now have riders with a voice and they can make a decision, say, we are not racing, they're much better respected than before, but not everybody's on the same page. There seems to be a real lack of unity. Yeah,
that disappointed me also as a sports director, but also as a former rider. But in general, I really think they do a great job on the World Tour, and CPA does a great job communicating, but some races are maybe a bit too small. You have a lot of teams coming from Pro Conti, even Conti, national teams, etc. Maybe they're not really on the same page as what the World Tour riders wants to, and CPA and whatever is communicated between the different parts.
Is that maybe because it sometimes goes down nationalist lines, maybe being a bit kinder protectionist lines? Smaller Spanish teams the other week wanted to continue in Mallorca. A lot of French teams feeling under pressure this time. Is it everybody maybe trying to protect their own development streams in cycling, and cycling having grown too much now? Why does this happen?
It's a good question. But yeah, every rider or every team tried to protect their own interest. You also have a lot of UCI points on stake. It's a really, really important year for every team there is on high level.
It's interesting actually, because the race did go on and it was won by Kevin Vauquelin, a French rider in a team that's desperate for those UCI points. When you look at that victory, is it valid? More than half the peloton's not there.
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. The race went on and we really wanted to do the race as well. But I think UCI and the organizer had several options to deal with it in another way. And also the stage was cancelled at one point because all the problems, all the traffic issues was addressed to them, but riders couldn't get guarantee that it would get better. And again, we were met with arrogancy from the police. Yeah, so it could have. There was a race, and there should be a different race. But again, if we can't get guarantee for the riders' safety, we kind of have to take decisions or matters into our own hands, because that's my finest role as a sports director. That's to make sure that my riders are safe.
So what would your message be to those teams who didn't stop the race with you? Because it seems strange as well that the police would decide a race is safe when there are cars on the road.
Riders have to stay united and they need to do a better job, because otherwise we go nowhere. It's a very tough battle to win because you have so many different interests. It's in every interest that there is a race and we keep racing. I just think that maybe also UCI has a big responsibility here. Also, bigger race organizer could also maybe be better in communicating their experiences to smaller races.
I was hearing that the cost of the gendarmes and the police had gone up astronomically in the last few years, and that was one of the things that a lot of the French teams were doing to defend their continuing support of the organisers. I understand that, and that's difficult. I'm sure you can understand that as well. The organisers are volunteers, they're doing their best, but surely that's where the governing body should step in. And if they want to keep these races going, then there should be money for that, shouldn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I see some races where they involve also the locals standing with flags around, holding traffic back. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to organize a safe race. I know it takes a lot of money to organize a race, but safety, you can maybe think a little bit out of the box, maybe communicate it out with the local commune, stuff like that. I mean, the problem is lack of motorbikes. That's a massive problem because in Bessèges they did a good job, but then again, race is so intense nowadays, and it is difficult sometimes to get around the peloton while you're on a motorbike. So what happened was that these motorbikes who was in the front of the peloton, they stopped the traffic but took off like 2 minutes before the peloton came, and then cars had like 2 minutes to figure out if they stay or go.
Perhaps needs better understanding of modern racing and how it works. Finally, Matti, what needs to change going forward? How do we fix all this? Because we've got riders not unified, we've got organisers who maybe can't support all the needs that a modern race needs, and we seem to have a governing body that doesn't take its responsibility. How does this change?
I think everyone needs to look themselves in the mirror and then really just stop talking but do something about it. Get the job done. I'm sure that the riders will learn from this experience, and it will be better. And hopefully this was just a one-time thing where riders weren't together. But UCI should definitely do something about it.
Well, with lives on the line, it's so important that something happens. Thank you very much, Matti. We've reached out to the UCI for their reaction to everything that happened in Bessèges. We hope that we'll be able to bring you that as soon as possible. As well as chatting to Matti, I've been following the local media's reaction to this. And even if I don't find it easy to agree with some of the viewpoints, I think they're really important to provide context. When interviewing Marc Madiot, the longtime boss of Groupama FDJ, an RMC radio host said that the price of using police or gendarmes as an escort had gone up by 2,000% in 15 years. Now, I'm not sure if that was an exact figure or an exaggeration, but you get the idea that it's much more difficult nowadays to put on an event like Etoile de Bességes. The point was also made that society in general is less tolerant of the road being closed for the events, and that the level of driving, the attitude in general to cyclists was worrying. Madiot said that one car had already gotten to the parcours and it had been stopped twice by police a couple of days before. It's important to stress that most, if not all, of the small race organisers are volunteers. They earn next to no money for their events, and it's their passion for the sport and its history that drives them. On that front, there were French journalists who talk about cycling having forgotten which social class it came from. Agree or not with any of that, there's certainly passion running high. That's undeniably a good thing. But all of that said, I don't believe that going to race a bike should mean you risk not coming home at all. Surely life itself has to have the highest worth. My own opinion on all of this has been formed and hardened by having to try and find words that simply don't exist and are never enough in the face of fatalities and other awful incidents that have happened in the past few years. It's possible to feel sorry for the organisers and empathise with them when things don't go to plan economically. We don't want to lose those wonderful races nor that brilliant rich history. Having said that, we should never compromise when it comes to the safety, livelihoods and especially the lives of the riders. The worst possible outcome for organisers is that they lose the race. The worst case scenario for the riders is that someone loses their life. That's the perspective that's required here. I know that there'll be plenty of passionate feelings on this, so let's hear them. Let's keep the conversation going. How do we solve this? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below this video. Now back on the road, and with no safety issues at all, there was a winning start to the season for one of the biggest transfers in the Women's World Tour.
Elisa Longo Borghini attacks and Kopecky has no answer. Finally, for the first time since 2008, Elisa Longo Borghini rides clear to secure the Maglia Rosa for Italy. Longo Borghini gets the win in the Giro that she has fought for her whole career.
2024 was absolutely my best year in my world career, so I cannot really describe it in many words. It was an absolute blast. After 6 years in Lidl Trek, the switch to the UAE team ADQ was a big step, but I'm very happy to be here and to get to know everybody and to be in another environment, to learn other stuff and to get to know other people and to just enjoy a new environment in general. In Lidl Trek we had Mads Pedersen, and for me it was a big inspiration, so I'm not starstruck, to be honest. I do recognize that Tadej is the biggest rider in the world right now, and probably he will be the biggest rider ever. I have a lot of respect for him, and I love the way he's riding his bike and he's approaching to the races. So he can somehow really inspire me. I will never probably be able to do the same that he's doing, but surely he's inspiring not only myself but many other young riders, both female and male. I will start in the UAE Tour in February, and then I will go through all the spring classics, especially the Italian ones at the beginning of March. And then from then on we will focus more on the GC at Giro D'Italia and Tour de France, and and at the end of the season the focus will switch to the World Championships in Rwanda.
What an incredible performance from the Polish rider. Kasia Niewiadoma wins the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift.
many teams getting stronger and stronger with star riders. Surely Demi Vollering is very hungry after last year second place. Nevadoma wants to do the double, I read. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot wants to win, so basically everyone wants to win it. I really hope to see many more races together with the men's, and I hope to see that this trend keeps going up. I really hope to see crowds all along the routes of our races. One of my biggest goals of 2025 will be to finish the Tour de France, because in 3 editions of the Tour, I only finished once the Tour because I got sick in 2023, and last year I didn't even start because I crashed before the race and I wasn't able to ride my bike, so finger crossed.
Full celebrations for UAE Team ADQ and the red jersey for Elisa Longo Borghini.
This week on the Home of Cycling, you can see racing on the road from France and Spain on Discovery Plus and Eurosport. Away from the road, the European Track Championships will be on. The fun in Belgium begins on Wednesday and runs right through the weekend. And we'll be back with another edition of the Gruppetto next Monday. That's the 17th of February. We'll see you then. Goodbye.